Hello readers, welcome back to Nutan's library. Friends, how many times have you reacted to a request by saying yes without really thinking about it? How many times have you resented committing to do something and wondered, why did I sign up for this? How often do you say yes simply to please or to avoid trouble, or because yes had just become your default response? Okay friends, let me ask you a few more questions. Have you ever found yourself stretched too thin? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? Like you are always in motion but never getting anywhere? If you answered yes to any of these, the way out is the way of the essentialist. Now, who is an essentialist? What is the whole idea of essentialism? In this video, we are going to talk about all of this in detail. Yes, friends, the title of the book that we are discussing is Essentialism, and it's written by Greg McKeown. This book tells you about the very approach of essentialism and guides you on how to become an essentialist in life, both personal and professional. Above it all, after reading the book, you'll realize that how much it was needed for a peaceful and clutter-free life. So who is an essentialist? What is the idea of essentialism? Friends, the way of the essentialist is the relentless pursuit of less but better. It doesn't mean occasionally giving a nod to the principle. It means pursuing it in a disciplined way. You see, there are far more activities and opportunities in the world than we have time and resources to invest in. And although many of them may be good or even very good, the fact is that most are trivial and few are vital. The way of the essentialist involves learning to tell the difference, learning to filter through all those options and selecting only those that are truly essential. Essentialism is not about how to get more things done. It's about how to get the right things done. But yes, it doesn't mean just doing less for the sake of less either. It is about making the wisest possible investment of your time and energy in order to operate at our highest point of contribution by doing only what is essential. When the energy is divided into many different activities, we have the unfulfilling experience of making a millimeter of progress in a million directions. And when the energy is given to fewer activities, the result is that by investing in fewer things, we have the satisfying experience of making significant progress in the things that matter most. The way of the essentialist rejects the idea that we can fit it all in. Instead, it requires us to grapple with real trade-offs and make tough decisions. The way of the essentialist means living by design, not by default. Instead of making choices reactively, the essentialist deliberately distinguishes the vital few from the trivial many, eliminates the non-essentials, and then removes obstacles so the essential things have clear, smooth passage. In other words, essentialism is a disciplined, systematic approach for determining where our highest point of contribution lies, then making execution of those things almost effortless. Friends, this book very lucidly explains what an essentialist and a non-essentialist thinks, does, and hence gets in life eventually. Where a non-essentialist thinks of all things to all people, is always in the undisciplined pursuit of more, and hence lives a life that does not satisfy. The essentialist thinks of less but better, is in the disciplined pursuit of less, and hence lives a life that really matters. The way of the essentialist is the path to being in control of our own choices. It is a path to new levels of success and meaning. It is the path on which we enjoy the journey, not just the destination. Despite all these benefits, however, there are too many forces conspiring to keep us from applying the disciplined pursuit of less but better, which may be why so many end up on the misdirected path of the non-essentialist. Friends, the non-essentialists are consumed and overwhelmed by the pressures all around them. So many successful people are in the quiet pain of trying desperately to do everything perfectly, which they don't have to. For them, falling into the undisciplined pursuit of more can be a key reason for failure. They get trapped into the paradox of success. Now, what is the paradox of success? You see, initially we have clarity of purpose, which enables us to succeed at our endeavor. When we have success, we gain a reputation as a go-to person. We become the good old name, who is always there when you need him, and we are presented with increased options and opportunities. When we have increased options and opportunities, which is actually code for demands upon our time and energies, it leads to diffused efforts. We get spread thinner and thinner. We become distracted from what would otherwise be our highest level of contribution. The effect of our success has been to undermine the very clarity that led to our success in the first place. So friends, the pursuit of success can be a catalyst for failure, or in other words, success can distract us from focusing on the essential things that produce success in the first place. But why is there non-essentialism so much nowadays? Because, number one, there are too many choices. There is an exponential increase in choices that we lost sight of the most important ones. We have lost our ability to filter what is important and what isn't. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. The more choices we are forced to make, the more the quality of our decisions deteriorates. Number two, too much social pressure. You see, the strength and number of outside influences on our decisions has increased. Today, since technology has lowered the barriers, therefore all of us are hyper-connected, and our connectedness has increased the strength of social pressure. Nowadays, it is not just information overload, it is opinion overload. This is very much responsible for the non-essentialism of ours. Number three, the idea that you can have it all and do it all. Almost everyone alive today is infected with it, but it doesn't work that way. We need to strictly prioritize. When I say strictly, I mean a single priority, not priorities. Because when you have many priorities, actually you have no priority at all. Also friends, when you yourself don't prioritize, others do it for you. When we don't purposefully and deliberately choose where to focus our energies and time, other people, our bosses, our colleagues, our clients, and even our families will choose for us. And before long, we will have lost sight of everything that is meaningful and important. Friends, we can either make our choices deliberately or allow other people's agendas to control our lives. We will have to have the courage to live a life true to ourselves, not the lives others expected of us. This requires not just haphazardly saying no, but purposefully, deliberately, and strategically eliminating the non-essentials. And not just getting rid of the obvious time wasters, but cutting out some really good opportunities as well. Instead of reacting to the social pressures pulling you to go in a million directions, you've got to learn a way to reduce, simplify, and focus on what is absolutely essential by eliminating everything else. In the same way that our closets get cluttered as clothes we never wear accumulate, so do our lives get cluttered as well-intended commitments and activities we've said yes to pile up. Most of these efforts didn't come with an expiration date. Unless we have a system for purging them, once adopted, they live on in perpetuity. Friends, we need to declutter the essentialist way. Explore and evaluate, eliminate, and then execute. Essentialism is about creating a system for handling the closet of our lives. This is not a process you undertake once a year, once a month, or even once a week, like organizing your closet. It is a discipline you apply each and every time you are faced with a decision about whether to say yes or whether to politely decline. It's a method for making the tough trade-off between lots of good things and a few really great things. It's about learning how to do less but better, so you can achieve the highest possible return on every precious moment of your life. This book shows you how to live a life true to yourself, not the life others expect from you. It teaches you a method for being more efficient, productive, and effective in both personal and professional realms. It teaches you a systematic way to discern what is important, eliminate what is not, and make doing the essential as effortless as possible. In short, it teaches you how to apply the disciplined pursuit of less to every area of your life. There are 3 deeply entrenched assumptions we must conquer to live the way of the essentialist. I have to, it's all important, and I can do both. To embrace the essence of essentialism, we need to replace these false assumptions with 3 core truths. I choose to, only a few things really matter, and I can do anything but not everything. These simple truths awaken us from our non-essential stupor. They free us to pursue what really matters. They enable us to live at our highest level of contribution. As we rid ourselves of the nonsense of non-essentialism and replace it with the core logic of essentialism, the way of the essentialist becomes natural and instinctive. So, what do we need to do in order to be an essentialist? Number 1, we got to choose. Friends, choice is at the very core of what it means to be an essentialist. To become an essentialist requires a heightened awareness of our ability to choose. We often think of choice as a thing, but a choice is not a thing. Our options may be things, but a choice is an action. When we surrender our ability to choose, something or someone else will step in to choose for us. An essentialist understands this thing very well. Surrendering our ability to choose is the path of the non-essentialist. We may not always have control over our options, but we always have control over how we choose among them. Number 2, discern. Friends, we need to understand one thing. Working hard is important, but more effort does not necessarily yield more results. Less but better does. But getting used to the idea of less but better may prove harder than it sounds, especially when we have been rewarded in the past for doing more. We need to understand the law of the vital few. Distinguishing the trivial many from the vital few can be applied to every kind of human endeavor, large or small. Sometimes what you don't do is just as important as what you do. Friends, we need to unlearn the 1:1 logic. The relationship between power and efforts is not linear. According to the power law theory, certain efforts actually produce exponentially more results than others. We discover how even the many good opportunities we pursue are often far less valuable than the few truly great ones. Once we understand this, we start scanning our environment for those vital few and eagerly eliminate the trivial many. Only then can we say no to good opportunities and say yes to truly great ones. This is why an essentialist takes the time to explore all his options. The extra investment is justified because some things are so much more important that they repay the effort invested in finding those things tenfold. An essentialist, in other words, discerns more so he can do less. Many capable people are kept from getting to the next level of contribution because they can't let go of the belief that everything is important. But an essentialist has learned to tell the difference between what is truly important and everything else. To practice this essentialist skill, we can start at a simple level, and once it becomes second nature for everyday decisions, we can begin to apply it to bigger and broader areas of our personal and professional lives. To master it fully will require a massive shift in thinking, but it can be done. Number 3, trade-off. Friends, we are not going to do 1,000 different things that really won't contribute much to the end result we are trying to achieve. A trade-off involves two things we want. Obviously, when faced with the choice between two things we want, the preferred answer is yes to both. But as much as we'd like to, we simply cannot have it all. A non-essentialist approaches every trade-off by asking, how can I do both? Essentialists ask the tougher but ultimately more liberating question, which problem do I want? An essentialist makes trade-offs deliberately. She acts for herself rather than waiting to be acted upon. Essentialists see trade-offs as an inherent part of life, not as an inherently negative part of life. Instead of asking, what do I have to give up? They ask, what do I want to go big on? The cumulative impact of this small change in thinking can be profound. As painful as they can sometimes be, trade-offs represent a significant opportunity. By forcing us to weigh both options and strategically select the best one for us, we significantly increase our chance of achieving the outcome we want. Friends, trade-offs are not something to be ignored or decried. They are something to be embraced and made deliberately, strategically, and thoughtfully. Now that we have understood that to be an essentialist, we need to pick the vital few from the trivial many, now comes the exploration part, wherein we'll see how to discern the trivial many from the vital few. This step is essential to the disciplined pursuit of less. To discern what is truly essential, we need space to think, time to look and listen, permission to play, wisdom to sleep, and the discipline to apply highly selective criteria to the choices we make. If you believe being overly busy and overextended is evidence of productivity, then you probably believe that creating space to explore, think, and reflect should be kept to a minimum. Yet, these very activities are the antidote to the non-essential busyness that infects so many of us. Rather than trivial diversions, they are critical to distinguishing what is actually a trivial diversion from what is truly essential. Essentialists spend as much time as possible exploring, listening, debating, questioning, and thinking. Friends, the purpose of the exploration is to discern the vital few from the trivial many. So, first exploration skill is escape. Before you can evaluate what is and isn't essential, you first need to explore your options. While non-essentialists automatically react to the latest idea, jump on the latest opportunity, or respond to the latest email, essentialists choose to create the space to explore and ponder. We need space to escape in order to discern the essential few from the trivial many. Unfortunately, in our time-starved era, we don't get that space by default, only by design. We need to create space to design, space to concentrate. We should be deliberately setting aside distraction-free time in a distraction-free space to do absolutely nothing other than think. The faster and busier things get, the more we need to build thinking time into our schedule. And the noisier things get, the more we need to build quiet reflection spaces in which we can truly focus. No matter how busy you think you are, you can carve time and space to think out of your workday. Whether you can invest 2 hours a day, 2 weeks a year, or even just 5 minutes every morning, it is important to make space to escape in your busy life. Skill number 2, look. See what really matters. Have you ever felt lost and unsure about what to focus on? Have you ever felt overwhelmed by all of the information bombarding you and not sure what to make of it? Have you ever felt dizzy from the different requests coming at you and unable to figure out which are important and which are not? Have you ever missed the point to something in your work or at home and not realized your mistake until it was too late? If so, this essentialist skill will be immensely valuable. We know instinctively that we cannot explore every single piece of information we encounter in our lives. Discerning what is essential to explore requires us to be disciplined in how we scan and filter all the competing and conflicting facts, options, and opinions constantly vying for our attention. A non-essentialist pays attention to the loudest voice, hears everything being said, is overwhelmed by all the information. An essentialist pays attention to the signal in the noise, hears what is not being said, scans to find the essence of the information. In the chaos of the modern workplace, with so many loud voices all around us, pulling us in many directions, it is more important now than ever that we learn to resist the siren song of distraction and keep our eyes and ears peeled for the headlines. Ponder well, tap into your inner journalist. Try to see the big picture. So what you can do is, number 1, keep a journal with you and record things every now and then. Remember, the faintest pencil is better than the strongest memory. Small incremental changes are hard to see in the moment, but over time can have a huge cumulative effect. Number 2, get out into the field. By getting out there and fully exploring the problem, you'll be able to better clarify the question and in turn to focus on the essential details that will ultimately allow you to make the highest contribution to the problem. Number 3, keep your eyes peeled for abnormal or unusual details. Friends, seek a different perspective on a given story, one that would shed the light on the topic in a fresh, different, or thought-provoking way. Number 4, clarify the question. Anyone who has watched skilled politicians being interviewed knows how well trained they can be in not answering the question being asked. Evading hard questions can be tempting for us all. Often it's easier to give a vague blanket answer rather than to summon up the facts and information required to give a thoughtful, informed answer. Yet, evasiveness only sends us down a non-essential spiral of further vagueness and misinformation. Clarifying the question is a way out of that cycle. Skill number 3. Play. Embrace the wisdom of your inner child. To play means anything we do simply for the joy of doing, rather than as a means to an end. Whether it's flying a kite, or listening to music, or throwing around a baseball, might seem like a non-essential activity, but in fact, play is essential in many ways. Play has the power to significantly improve everything from personal health to relationships, to education, to organizations' ability to innovate. Play leads to brain plasticity, adaptability, and creativity. Nothing fires up the brain like play. A non-essentialist thinks play is trivial, thinks that play is an unproductive waste of time. But an essentialist knows play is essential. Play sparks exploration. Play is so crucial to the development of key cognitive skills. Play expands our minds in ways that allow us to explore, to germinate new ideas, or see old ideas in a new light. It makes us more inquisitive, more attuned to novelty, more engaged. Play is fundamental to living the way of the essentialist because it fuels exploration. Play is a vital driver of creativity and exploration. Skill number 4. Sleep. The way of the non-essentialist is to see sleep as yet another burden on one's already overextended, overcommitted, busy but not always productive life. They think sleep is for failures, sleep is a luxury and it gets in the way of doing it all. Essentialists instead see sleep as necessary for operating at high levels of contribution more of the time. They think sleep is a priority and it breeds creativity. This is why they systematically and deliberately build sleep into their schedules so they can do more, achieve more, and explore more. By protecting their asset, they are able to go about their daily lives with a reserve of energy, creativity, and problem-solving ability to call upon when needed. Unlike non-essentialists who can never know when and where they will be hijacked by their own fatigue. The best asset we have for making a contribution to the world is ourselves. If we underinvest in ourselves, that is our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, we damage the very tool we need to make a highest contribution to. One of the most common ways people, especially ambitious, successful people, damage this asset is through a lack of sleep. But this way we will burn out too early. We need to be as strategic with ourselves as we are with our careers and our businesses. We need to pace ourselves, nurture ourselves, and give ourselves fuel to explore, thrive, and perform. Friends, we need to understand that sleep is not an enemy of productivity. In fact, sleep is a driver of peak performance. Sleep allows us to operate at a highest level of contribution so that we can achieve more in less time. Due to lack of sleep, you'll be technically awake, but your brain will barely function. It'll be harder to think, plan, prioritize, or see the bigger picture. It'll be hard to make decisions or choices and nearly impossible to discern the essential from the trivial. It will become unsustainable, so to speak. Essentialists choose to do one fewer thing right now in order to do more tomorrow. Yes, it is a trade-off, but cumulatively, this small trade-off can yield big rewards. We need to shatter the sleep stigma. We can get better productivity if our body is better rested. Sleep deficit is actually a performance killer. Sleep deprivation undermines high performance. Skill number 5. Select. A non-essentialist says yes to almost every request or opportunity. Uses broad implicit criteria like if someone I know is doing it, I should do it. An essentialist says yes to only the top 10% of opportunities. Uses narrow explicit criteria like is this exactly what I'm looking for? For an essentialist, if it isn't a clear yes, it's a no. Making our criteria both selective and explicit affords us a systematic tool for discerning what is essential and filtering out the things that are not. Put the decision to an extreme test. If the answer isn't a definite yes, then it should be a no. To be an essentialist, we need to be ultra selective. Ask yourself, do I absolutely love this? Then we will be able to eliminate the clutter and have space for something better. We can do the same with other choices, whether big or small, significant or trivial, in every area of our lives. Friends, you can apply the 90% rule here, and it's one you can apply to just about every decision or dilemma. As you evaluate an option, think about the single most important criterion for that decision, and then simply give the option a score between 0 and 100. If you rate it any lower than 90%, then automatically change the rating to 0 and simply reject it. Applying highly selective criteria is a trade-off. Sometimes you'll have to turn down a seemingly very good option and have faith that the perfect option will soon come along. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. But the point is that the very act of applying selective criteria forces you to choose which perfect option to wait for, rather than letting other people or the universe choose for you. Like any essential skill, it forces you to make decisions by design rather than default. There is definitely fear of missing out, but if we just say yes because it's an easy reward, we run the risk of having to later say no to a more meaningful one. Ask yourself, what am I deeply passionate about? And what taps my talent? And what meets a significant need in the world? Friends, other than 90% rule, here's a simple systematic process you can use to apply selective criteria to opportunities that come your way. First, write down the opportunity. Ask what opportunity is being offered to you. Second, what are your minimum criteria for this option to be considered? Third, the extreme thing. What are the ideal criteria for this option to be approved? If the opportunity doesn't pass the first set of criteria, the answer is obviously no. But if it also doesn't pass 2 of your 3 extreme criteria, the answer is still a no.